Hello, and welcome back to Be Life. I'm Jennifer Gallardi, your host for today. Thanks for sticking around and joining us for episode 2. Today, we're going to get down to basics and talk about the building blocks of a well-rounded, healthy diet. I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Mark Larson to help us break it all down. Dr. Mark.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I can't wait to hear all the wisdom you're going to drop on us.
Well, hopefully it'll be wisdom.
We just want to get down to basics. Tell us about the building blocks of nutrition and food. There's 3 macronutrients, correct?
Right. In nutrition, of course, is a huge subject as it applies to food, but we're talking really about fats, proteins, and carbohydrates would be the 3 bigger categories.
So what do we need them for? What do proteins do for us?
Well, proteins, for a lot of people, they would say they are the most important. Of course, you have to have them all.
Right.
But proteins are involved in, for example, the making of muscles. But for hormones, it's probably the biggest issue right now. A lot of the backbone of proteins go into making of our hormones, which are essential.
Talk to us a little bit more about like proteins and muscle. What do they build? Do they build muscle, or do you just need them to help keep lean muscle mass? Or, you know,
Well,
is there one approach about proteins, or does it depend?
There is not really one approach. I mean, you can supplement proteins, which is very easy to do nowadays, but we usually think of having food. So there would be animal-based protein, meat. There's also would be nuts and seeds from the plant family, vegetarian or that direction, higher in protein as a source. And like beans, things like that, vegetarian also. But you could also have dairy, it tends to be higher in percentage. Like a lot of foods have everything in it. They have some fat, protein, and carbs, but they're kind of classified more or less on what's predominant.
Got it.
So proteins are predominantly meat, dairy, and seeds and nuts.
Well, here's like a hot topic too, that a lot of people, when someone tells them I'm vegan, they're like, well, how do you get your protein? So are the proteins found in, say, legumes and beans, or even some grains, are they not as good? Are the animal proteins superior, or, you know, what are we talking about?
Well, there really is no good or superior. There are 20 amino acids, which are the building blocks of the proteins.
Okay.
10 of those are essential, meaning the body cannot make those. It can make 10 of the 20. The others you have to ingest.
Got it.
So the reason someone might say meat would be superior is because meat tends to have all the essential amino acids. And if you're doing vegetarian, you can get all the essential amino acids, but you have to be more careful in getting them from different sources.
Okay.
So that's where that comes into. You can still do it, but it's harder to do.
Well, let's move on to carbohydrates. Why not?
Why not? The carbohydrates get a lot of the blame today for people being overweight.
That's right. Everyone's saying, God, carbs bad. I'm like, no, carbs good.
Right. It's all good. I guess it's in moderation, quantity, and where you're coming from.
Right.
So, for example, sugar is a carbohydrate, a simple carbohydrate as compared to a complex one. But sugar is ingested so easily today, and everything has it. So you could say, I'm going to avoid sugar. You're still going to get sugar in something. You're going to get it.
Pick up a label, right? And it's in ketchup and the most random things you would think.
Food tastes better with sugar in it,
and
usually.
It's cheaper.
It tends to be, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we want to. What kind of carbohydrates are maybe a better option?
I like, for myself and for most people, and I have to say most people because it can vary from person to person, is to eat basically low sugar, low glycemic index, low glycemic load type foods.
There's another buzzword.
Yeah.
Low glycemic.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, let's say different foods have a level of sugar in them, like a carrot, which tends to be a higher glycemic index, which means the sugar can hit you pretty quickly, but it doesn't have a lot of it in it, so its glycemic load is low, which is generally considered good. In most health studies, they would like people to have low glycemic index foods, low glycemic load foods.
Doesn't spike our insulin, right, as quickly?
So if you have 5 potatoes, all starch, mostly starch, you're going to get a lot of glycemic load because there's a quantity there.
Right.
If you have 1 carrot, you're not going to get a lot of sugar, but it's going to maybe hit you a little quicker.
So let's move on because we do have some limited time.
Okay.
Fats.
Fats.
Good, bad. What's the skinny?
Same.
Or the fat.
Well, the skinny and the fat. Okay. Same thing. Different perspectives. So there are lots of medical studies on fats, sugars, and proteins. And I tell you, they don't all come in the same perspective. Some come in with different conclusions, for example. So in general, you have to have some fat. It's required for your brain. It's required for your nerves. You must have it. It's your cell membranes. You have to have fats. They're generally thinking that you need more omega-3 as compared to omega-6, two types of fat, but you need both. So I think they're still figuring it out, but you have to get fat. Again, you could say animal source tends to be more saturated, which some studies say saturated fat is bad for arterial sclerosis and stroke heart problems.
Right.
And plant products be more likely to be unsaturated or less saturated, and generally better. And that goes into another whole level of studies and how that works.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking with us.
Sure.
We are going to head on over to one of my favorite places, the kitchen. Yay! To talk to Chef Chuck Kowal. Hello, good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
All right, and one of our favorite, oh, yep, there we go. One of our favorite foods.
Yep. Pharaoh.
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh is my favorite thing in the world.
Yes.
Pharaoh is an ancient grain. It was around during the Roman Empire. It's grown pretty much everywhere now, but it's started in Italy, but you can pretty much get it in every place. We were talking about proteins before. A cup of cooked Pharaoh has 6 grams of protein. Now that's
It's high for a grain.
It's high for a grain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super satiating. It's delicious, and it's something that we should be putting in our diet regularly.
How do you like to prepare it?
There's a couple different ways. In Italy, there's a soup called zuppa di Pharaoh, and it's essentially barlotti beans and Pharaoh soup. In a future episode, we're going to talk about collagen and bone broths and stocks. My favorite way to make this is to use a collagen-rich base, a soup base, and use the Pharaoh in the beans. It's fabulous.
So simple, right?
So simple.
Soups are amazing this time of year,
Yeah.
this winter, fall season where it's just you want warm, you want nurturing, right? Grounding. But we also talked about even before you put it in the soup or cook it, we can sprout it, right?
We can sprout it.
So tell us about sprouting.
What I like to do is sprout. I sprout almost everything. I sprout garbanzo beans before I cook them.
Why do we do that?
It changes the starch into sugar.
Okay.
Makes it a little bit more pleasing to the taste. The same thing with Pharaoh. It changes the chemical structure of the grain itself. And the health benefits, it's high in zinc, high in iron, high in magnesium, vitamin B3, which is niacin. It's got all of those in spades.
It's a winner.
Yeah, it is a winner.
It is a winner.
It's more nutritious than brown rice, which is way more nutritious than white rice.
Right.
So to me, it's like the perfect grain. I also like to use it in place of arborio or carnaroli rice when I make risotto.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it still give you that creamy type
Absolutely.
of consistency?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
I would
great.
love that recipe.
It's
I'll
really
have to
good.
come see you.
Yeah, it's very good.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to take all this carbohydrate-rich, dense, nutrient food, and we're going to bring in Jamar, who is not only a fitness trainer, but also an RD, a registered dietitian. So come on in here. So nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
No
Let's have a
problem.
seat. Let's
Okay.
chat about this a little bit because you've got such a great knowledge of food and how it can fuel our workouts, right? So this bridge and how they work together instead of thinking of them separately. Talk to us about carbohydrates and fuel and working out.
Well, yeah, well, you basically said it. Carbohydrates is our fuel when it comes to working out. Our muscles have carbohydrates or stored as glycogen, which helps us with a lot of endurance exercise, running, triathlons, long distance swimming.
Okay.
Helps us maintain the activity for a longer period of time.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any
plays a huge
favorite carbohydrates pre-training, pre-workout?
you know what helps a lot? A lot of people, a lot of my clients, just eating a banana.
Yeah, it's kind of the
It's like a nutrient-packed little fruit. Nobody does that.
right.
The main objective is to make sure you're having some carbs. I'm not saying go eat a plate of pasta
Right.
right before your activity.
Actually, talk to us about that, because I have heard some people say, no, it's better to exercise on an empty stomach.
You can if you can actually do it.
Right.
I mean, people will pass out.
Right. How about post-workout?
Post-workout, there's a big kick about protein in
Yeah.
post-workout for a lot of the bodybuilders. What you want to make sure is that you're getting your intake throughout the day. Timing plays a part to some extent, but to make a significant difference, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting your nutrition throughout the day, your body's going to utilize it.
Yeah. I would find that right after like a tough workout, like a cycling class, if I didn't have something within a half hour or an hour, my nutritionist said you can't wait 2 hours later, because what would happen is I get hangry.
Yeah.
And I do start to I get anxious and I get really irritable.
Yeah, and you can feel the difference too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna want to eat because you broke down your muscles and your body's just looking for things to help rebuild it, right?
Got it.
Whether it's protein, carbs, whatever, fat.
Yeah.
So it's always a good idea to eat.
Oh my gosh, we could be here for days. And I know you want to show us a little bit of physical activity.
Yeah.
And warm us
Show
up.
a little warm up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Typically, obviously you want to warm up the body whenever you do long distance
Let's do it.
activities, running, swimming.
Yeah.
So I'll show you a couple things that get the blood flowing.
Okay.
The first one is called a sumo squat leg pulse. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to squat down and leg pulse. 2 seconds. Yeah.
1, 2.
Squat down, leg pulse.
Ooh,
Yeah.
and heels.
Yeah,
No
and
less.
you'll feel it. I mean, you're squatting, you're feeling your legs, your
My
calves,
core.
your core
To
muscles.
balance.
So you do that each leg, one side 12 and the other side
Wait, we got to
12.
even out the other side.
Okay.
So just a couple
Squat.
here at least.
Pulse. And then the other one, what you can do is it's the one-legged clap. Now, if you can't balance with one leg, you can modify it and just do a squat. But let's do the
I'm
one
sorry,
leg.
I just want to clarify. You said the one-legged clap,
One
right?
leg clap. So your
Okay.
hands up, clap.
Okay.
There you
Ooh.
go. Hands up, clap. Now, for some, the balancing is the issue, right? So
Right.
you could just modify it and do the squat, leg up, clap.
Okay.
Squat,
Squat.
leg, clap.
I alternated legs.
And then you alternate the legs. So each side you'll do 12. And again, with this, you're moving your muscles and your legs, your calves, your core muscles are being stabilized as well too.
Yeah.
So another full body. The next one we'll do the pirouette crunch.
Ooh, pirouette. I love
So
the sound of that.
Down. Oh wait, sorry. Down and then come up with
Okay.
a crunch.
By the way, that's not a pirouette.
Oh wait, it's a
That's
what is it? I'm
a
getting
plie.
I'm not sure what to call it.
Curtsy squat.
Curtsy. That's what it is.
I was going to
curtsy.
say pirouette, we're going to
Yeah.
be turning.
Yeah, no pirouette. No pirouette. So
big
curtsy
word.
squat.
Curtsy squat.
Up, crunch.
You just happened to talk
Down.
to two ballerinas, unfortunately.
think
I
that's
have
what
no room to
confused
do
me.
that.
So this last exercise is the plank, a slight version of plank. It's Superman or an airplane plank. So basically, we're
Is
just
it
going to go.
easier than a regular plank? Because
No, we're adding it.
Oh, you're making it harder. Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you're getting down as a plank, and then you're gonna mimic the airplane side.
Oh, I could do
back.
that. We could do that. We learned everything today. We did fitness, we did food, we did nutrition. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with you guys. Chuck, come on over. This was so great. Thank you for showing us all the amazing ways to cook Pharaoh. Thank you so much for joining us today. We enjoyed going over the basics with you. Remember, you are what you eat. We all look forward to bringing you more of the latest news and information on health, beauty, and wellness. If you have any questions or comments, or to get all the juicy bits, find us on social media. Like us and follow us. Of course, we want to be liked and followed, right guys? I'm Jennifer. Stay tuned for next week's episode. We'll chat about different nutritional strategies and specifically the latest, greatest craze, keto. Until then, be well, be now, be healthy, be life. Thanks, guys.
Hi.
A pie, crushed it.